everybody. It's been, well, a bumpy start, but looks like we're ready to go. So welcome to another PRAESENSA webinar. Today's topic is on how to create block diagrams by using VISIO elements. But indeed, Peter, thank you. First, some considerations. The webinar is being recorded and it will be made available to all of you via the global clipboard. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentations, but you can already write them down in the chat box. And then, yes, you can go on. Then it is my pleasure to introduce today to you today's presenters from the Application Support Department, Mr. Peter Ophai and Anton Tilo.
Yeah.
I don't know, Peter, Anton, go ahead.
Okay, good morning everybody. I'm Peter Ophai. And today's topic is what Jolanda already mentioned, using VISIO symbols in PRAESENSA to create PRAESENSA drawings. VISIO, what we will talk about is drawings and stencils. How to import stencils into VISIO, how to select them, and then using the symbols for from the stencils for your drawing. And we will do two things. We will do a demo for call station labels, so we have a template for that. And we also do the larger part will be PRAESENSA drawings. Yeah. In the end, we have questions and answers, as Jolanda already mentioned. So we are focusing on in this webinar on block diagrams, and these are block diagrams for the network and for the power connection. And for those who have seen the previous webinars for PRAESENSA, you know that we had already a webinar on network design and we had a webinar on power design. Yeah, and so what you see here, the block diagrams are the block diagrams for network and power design. Yeah. The good thing about the network design or the network diagram is that you immediately see that you have enough Ethernet ports, glass fiber ports, and or PoE ports. And in the power diagram, you see very quickly that you have enough power sources available. Yeah, what is important before you do these block diagrams is that you know already what the system will look like, how many amplifiers that you need, how many call stations with extensions that you need. Those things you have to know before you can start with the block diagram for power and network. So, VISIO. Let's have a look at VISIO first, quickly. VISIO is part of a Microsoft Office, Microsoft Office, but in a lot of cases, it's not standard installed. You have to ask for it. Yeah, and you have to ask it at the IT service portal. And there are several steps that you have to take. In our case, we go to the portal and we go to the software. And there you can select add and remove software. And then you have to select VISIO, Microsoft VISIO Standard, 2016 in this case. There is no need to go to professional version because there's only only a little bit functionality extra that we don't need. So this is about VISIO and how to get it. And it could be for free, I'm not sure. Could also be that you have to get a monthly, that you have to pay monthly for it. Then about VISIO files. The files that we are using are the drawing files, so VISIO drawings, and they have the extension VSDX, D from drawing. And then there is another file extension VSSX, and that are the stencils. Yeah, and we will talk about stencils a lot today. Yep. Now these stencils, they have these predefined shapes, like squares and arrows. But for PRAESENSA, we have created new symbols for call station extensions and for devices. You will see that in a moment. Yeah. These stencils, you have to save them on your hard disk, and you have to save them in the folder My Shapes. Yeah, and you see that here, My Shapes, and you see 3 stencils there. Yeah. And you see there can be multiple stencils. You can create your own stencils if you want. That's all no problem. VISIO stencils. At the moment we have 3 VISIO stencils for PRAESENSA. And the first one, that is actually the one that we are going to use to create block diagrams. And that is the PRA VISIO stencil version 5. Then we have two stencils for call station labels. We have zone symbols, and we have, I just called them other symbols that you can also use on a call station. We will see that in a moment. Yeah, these are symbols like music and a swimming pool and a restaurant. Yeah. Okay. So let's first have a quick look at call station labels, how we create call station labels. We have 2 VISIO drawings for call station labels. Yeah, and the first one is the extension label. That's the actual label drawing. And we have a drawing that's called notes. And here we can make our first notes, what should be on the label. Yeah, so you print the notes and then you create the labels. Yeah, and you do that together with the 2 stencils that we have for the call station extensions. Yeah, that is the zone symbols and the other symbols. Yeah, together you can create your labels. And what is also always possible on the labels for a call station is that you have text fields. Default, the labels have text fields, but you can replace them with symbols. Now, how to create a label for a call station? You start VISIO, and VISIO will start with an empty screen, and then you open the file extension labels. Yeah, and then the next step is that you select the right stencil, and you do that from My Shapes, and then you see the stencils that you have in the My Shape folder. Yeah, and when you've selected the stencil, you will see that on the left side of the screen. Yeah, and now it's actually quite simple. You can drag and drop those symbols on your workspace on the label for the call station. So that is very quickly how it works. And this is what you can have done, what you can create then. And it's actually, it looks that it is a lot, but it is actually very simple. Yeah, you have a symbol for the P for parking. You have a music and a microphone symbol. These are all standard in the stencils that we have. Yeah. So, simplest way is to just do a demo. So I will go to the VISIO now. Yeah, here is the VISIO. Yeah, you should be able to see that. You see the VISIO, Anton?
Yes.
Okay. So we start with an empty screen, and then we open the file for the labels, and that is extension labels. So you see, this is the file, and you see this is the call station, and then you have a maximum of 4 extensions. So you can create here 4 different labels for each extension. You can do one. We just do one for now. I'll zoom in a little bit, go a little bit to the left. And you also have to select the stencil, and you do that here from More Shapes. You go to My Shapes, And here you see the stencils that you have in My Shapes. And we start with extension zone symbols. Yeah, and you see here a lot of small symbols that you can use on the labels. Let's start with the first one. Here, this is the top label, and this is just so we can change the text. And if you want to change the color, it's also possible. Make it nice blue and yellow. So this is the top label. You can change the text if you want. Zone 1. It's a bit too large, so we can reduce the size of the letters, and now it fits here. Same here. Yeah. So these are the standard text fields, but much nicer, of course, is that you can delete the text files. And then you can use symbols for it that we have created for Presenter especially. Now we have zones here, for instance, so you can have a zone symbol for restaurant. A little bit, and I'm not sure what this sign is, but I think it's beer. And then we have something else, the restaurant or another restaurant, a breakfast room. Yeah, so in this case, you can have symbols for the different zones. Yeah, you can just drag and drop them there, no problem. If you go to the other stencil that we have, the second one, you can unselect this one and we can select this one. Yeah, you see a lot more symbols. And what I would like to have here is an acknowledge reset for emergencies. So what you can do, you have the emergency symbol. You could put that somewhere over there in the middle. And we have an acknowledge symbol here for this button, and we have the reset here for this button. And now we have for emergencies an acknowledge and reset button. Yeah, and this way you can create your own labels for the call stations. Yeah, we can mute a zone. Let's say the breakfast room. We can mute. These are all also functions for the for Presenter. So this was in short how to create labels, and you probably see that it is actually quite simple. You print this label and you cut out the different labels and you put them in the cover of the extensions. Make sure that you print them in color. Yeah. Okay. That is all I want to say about the labels. Yeah, so I'll stop with this. I don't have to save it. So I have an empty screen again. Take this out. And we can continue with the next part, and that is how to create block diagrams for Presenter. Yeah, how to start. Visio again, you've seen that. We'll start with an empty screen. And now you have two options. You can start a new drawing, so from scratch, or you have an existing drawing, doesn't matter. And you have to select the stencil. Yeah, and that is the VISIO stencil over there. It will open on the left side of the screen, and also here you can drag and drop your symbols to the workspace. Yeah. We not only have symbols for the call stations and for the controller and amplifiers, we also have lines and loudspeakers, and so you will see that in a moment. We've used these slides also in the previous webinars. Here you see the different symbols that we have for the different components. So the controller, the amplifier, multifunction power supply, call station, and the extension. And here we have the other devices, the switch, midspan power injector, power supply, and one of the many analog audio to Dante devices. Some guidelines for a block diagram. Yeah. The symbols are created to have block diagrams that go from left to right, and that can sound a little bit strange, but what we do, how the systems are created, is that we have the input devices on the left and the output devices on the right, and then you get very nice connections, not those very difficult connections around all kind of components. We also have defined colors for the different connections. Yeah, so we have blue for Ethernet, red for glass fiber, orange for power cables to the system controller, brownish, something brownish for lifeline and power for the amplifier, and black actually for all the other connections. We have defined symbols for the different connections. So we have a symbol for the network, for the glass fiber, power, and lifeline. These are all symbols that are also used in the manual and also on the rear of the different devices for PRAESENSA. Okay, that's all I wanted to tell about VISIO, and now I'm going to start with a VISIO drawing, a block diagram. So again, I will drag and drop my VISIO there, and I'm going to start with an empty screen. Yeah, so I have a blank drawing here, this one, yeah, empty drawing, and I select my stencil. Yeah, and I'm using my VISIO of my PRAESENSA stencil here. So now you see all the different components that we have. We have the different devices for PRAESENSA. You see also that we have them in different shapes. We have a horizontal and a vertical. And you have desktop and wall mount call stations. You have the extension there, the MPS. We already have the MPS 1. It's a non-existing device at the moment, but we have it already as a symbol there. We have the MPS actually in 3 different versions. We have the network switch, the ES8P2S. We have analog audio input to Dante devices. We have power supplies. We have PoE inserts. And here in the bottom of the list, you find the different lines: glass fiber, Ethernet, lifeline and power. Here another power. We have speakers, end-of-line boards, batteries, laptop, all those things. And here in the last part, you see the different symbols for the explanation of the different colors. So let's start with a simple design. I will zoom in a bit, like this. Yeah, and I'll go to the left a bit. And I have my system controller on top. I can have call stations. So I'll put them on the left side. We said we wanted to have the inputs on the left side and the outputs on the right side. Here we have the call stations. You can have extensions over there. Extension there. Yeah. And then we have our MPS. I think we can use this one. Yeah. And we can add our amplifiers like this. Here we have the 4-channel amplifiers also there. So you can add it there as well. And now you can start your wiring for the system. Now you see here an MPS. And we have the amplifiers and we have call stations and the controller. And if you remember the presentation of the power calculator for PRAESENSA, you know that we call this a cluster. Yeah, so this is a cluster for the power calculator. Now what we've done, we don't want to wire every time these amplifier with the MPS. What we have done, we've created already a block for this, and that is this block. It's exactly the same as what you saw before. It only has all the drawings, all the connections already inside. So if you need multiple MPS and amplifiers, you just add more of these blocks. And now you can start with your wiring. Yeah, so I want to change this wiring. I can, it is a group, but you can just select this line, delete it, and now I go down in the list and I take my Ethernet line, Ethernet cable. So I drag and drop it over there. You see the line there over there, you see the endpoints, and you just connect it there and there. Yeah, and you can make the drawing like that. From here, I want to go back to the controller because I want to make a loop. Yeah, so we do it like this, and we do it like this. I have to connect my call stations, so I also need Ethernet cables for that. That is one. And I have to connect them, of course, to the MPS, to the outputs where I have PoE, power over Ethernet. So I have to connect them to here, where that little flash is. And this happens sometimes in VISIO, that those lines are not very nice. There's nothing you can do about it, that is VISIO. Another one for the call station. And you see that if you have only one MPS and two call stations, you never can have a redundant power connection, because already you see that the two PoE outputs there are connected to different call stations. Yeah. So here we have the connection for the network. We have a loop here back to the controller for the amplifier and the MPS. And we have power connection here. Now, why is this loop, that you recognize that, so important? You know about hop count. Yeah, and you know that you cannot have more than 22 hops in a loop. And here you see, the system controller is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a loop of 5 hops, no problem. I need to connect the power for the controller as well, so I take an orange line and I'll just connect it over there. I want to have a double connection, a redundant connection, so I'll just take 2 lines. Yeah, I can adjust this a little bit. I can go to the left. I'm not sure why he does this. Yep, looks a little bit better now. So now we have our power connections to the amplifier, power and lifeline here. And we have our Ethernet connections here in a loop and the single connections to the call station. And now I can extend my diagram if I want. And I just want to add a analog to Dante audio input device. And this device is PoE powered. You see that with a little flash over there. So for this I need a PoE insert. And a PoE insert is, I'm not sure, yeah, this one. Yeah. So I can add the PoE insert. I take my blue line for the connection over there. Yeah, so now I have my connection to the PoE insert, and I can make my connection, I'll make it here, over there, and over there. Okay, what you see now is that the audio, the analog audio device has power from a PoE insert and is connected to the system controller. I can also add my laptop to the system, and the nice thing about VISIO is that when you go over the edge, the screen automatically, the paper or the worksheet gets bigger. So we can connect it over there. And now I have my PC connected. Yeah, and in this way you can do your block diagrams. Now I'm going to extend the diagram a bit more. I will add more amplifiers now. And now I have to, of course, change my wiring again. So I can remove this line and I'll just take this line out and I connect it over there. Yeah, can make it very nice. The loop is now bigger. Oops. Bigger, 6 amplifiers. We go back to the MPS and we have to close this loop now. Yeah, so I go back, go down to an Ethernet line, and I just connect it like this and like this. And again, I have my closed loop for the amplifiers. And still I am below 22 hops. Yeah, it's now 1, 4, 7, 8, 9. What I can do now is that I can have my call stations connected redundant. Yeah, because I have PoE here as well. Yeah, and I can do the same for this call station. That's the advantage when you have 2 MPSs. Yeah. So you have a nice overview of your system now. You see the power for the amplifiers. You see the power for these amplifiers. What you could do is that you power the system controller from 2 MPSs. So then you just connect the wire over there. Now, if one MPS fails, the other one is still there to power the controller. And in this way, you can extend your diagram. You can add extra amplifiers. You just can have a single amplifier over there. You have to connect it in the network, of course, like this. Yeah. You have to close the loop again. So you need a wire over there. Something like this. But it lacks power. There is no power there. But there is also no power available on the MPS. So if this is a amplifier that is non-EN54, you could say, well, I take a separate power supply, just put it there, and here I have my power connection, and I have power for the amplifier. It's not EN54, what you see here. Yeah, because the power supply is not EN54, but you could have it like this. Something else, if you need something that is not in our list of symbols, you just can create your own. Yeah, if I have a connection to a fire detection system, over there. Like this, give it a name. Yeah, it's important. So I make it bold. You can have the fill, let's say, a bit red because it's a fire detection system with yellow this. And normally what you have with the fire detection system is that we get contacts from the fire detection system to the control inputs on the MPS. So we have 2 MPSs here. That means in total we have 16 control inputs. And now also you can make your connections. So you go to connection line. Basically what you do here up there with connection line is the same as what you do here. But here you always have a black line and you just connect it there to there. And if you have 16 contacts, you can connect it over there. Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, put it over there. So, here you have an overview of this diagram now. You see the network, everything in the network. You see the power for the controller. You see the connections to the call stations. And for this design, it's actually quite a simple diagram. But you can imagine if you have a large diagram that you will have a lot of different lines all going, like here you have power and network in the same place. And especially with large diagrams, you sometimes have that you want to have a separate diagram for power and a separate diagram for the network. Yeah, I will show you that. So this is how it works to create a diagram, and I will show you a few examples now. Open this one. I've prepared them in advance. Yeah, you see, this is the diagram. This is the diagram from the previous webinar. And you see already that you have a lot of wiring over there, network and power, all in a small place. And if you now split this diagram into a power part, you see that you only have power there, power for the controller, and of course, yeah, this is network and power, this is PoE. And you can have a separate diagram for the network only. And that is actually very, very important, this network diagram. Because in the network diagram, you can very clearly see how your loop is configured, how your loop is connected. So we have 9 amplifiers here, and going back via the MPS, that's 12 hops, and the controller is 13 hops. Yeah, and you know the maximum is 22, including the system controller. Yes, you shouldn't go over that. And if you have more devices, you have to create more loops. You'll see that in the next diagram. Yeah, so a network diagram, a power diagram. Nice thing about the power diagram is that you see that you have enough power, that you have enough power connections. And this is the diagram where we have everything in one diagram. Also here in the bottom part, in the lower part of this, you see the explanation for the different colors. Yeah, lifeline and power, power and network cable. There's no glass fiber in this example. I have another example that is an example of a really big system, and that is this one. Yeah, this is already quite a large diagram. Yeah, you see the controller on top. Then we have 2 switches over there. They go with glass fiber, the red wire is glass fiber, to remote system. So this is a remote system and this is a remote system. So actually what you see here are 3 systems. One central system on top, a remote system on the left, and a remote system on the right. Yeah, and if we zoom in on this system on the left side, what you see here, I have to go back. You see the different loops. You go from the MPS here via all the amplifiers and then go back to the MPS over there. And here, these amplifiers are also in a loop. You go from here to there and to there. And the MPSs are in a separate loop. You can see that here, going there, going up and over there. But every time, the number of hops is always less than 22. And you know that you have to count with the hops starting at the system controller. So we go from the system controller is 1, the switch is 2, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19, 20. It's very close to the maximum. Yeah. So this is no problem. It's 20 hops, but don't go much higher. And you can see that for every loop that we've created. And on the right side, it's of course exactly the same. Now, what you probably already have noticed is there is no power connection here. So we left out all the power connection. Imagine that you have all those power connections here and there and there. It would make the drawing less clear. Now you clearly see the network and you clearly see all the loops and all the connections. And the power connection would be very disturbing here. Another thing is, if you look at this diagram, the central system, and if these systems, the two systems on the left and the right, are remote, you immediately see that there is no power here. Yeah, so you have to solve that. In a diagram like this, you see that immediately. So what I do, I will just take, I'm not sure if I have to use this one. Yeah, I can use an MPS as the power supply. I have to do that for the controller. Yeah. So I wire my controller. And I want to have two cables there, two wires. Okay. It goes a little bit up, that's better. So the power is there for the controller, and we have an Ethernet connection for the MPS. Yeah, and I need power for my switch, and I'm going to use this one for it. I'll just connect it over there and over there. Yeah, and VISIO will make its own path, but you can always change it. And it has to go over there. Yeah. Okay, it's getting a little bit crowded now. But you see that when you are adding power lines to a network diagram, it's already getting a little bit crowded and not so clear anymore. What I can do is this, and perhaps that changes a bit. Yeah, so now everything is okay. I have my MPS to power the controller over there, and I have my MPS to power the two switches. And you can have these power connections also redundant if you want. And now the system is okay. That's the big advantage if you do your block diagrams like this. You will always see that you have enough Ethernet ports, PoE ports, and enough power available. Okay. So much about block diagrams. Now my PC is very slow. I'm not sure why. Okay. Yeah. That was a demo for VISIO symbols. A quick recap. Creating block diagrams, you do it from the left to the right. System controller on top. Input devices on the left. Output devices on the right. Use the colors for the different lines. That makes it much clearer. And I mentioned that already before. A block diagram will show whether you have enough Ethernet ports and PoE ports, if you have enough glass fiber ports, and that you have enough power sources. So, time for questions.
Okay, we got some questions, Peter, already in the box. I will read them for you.
Put this on the screen, or? I'm not sure if this is good. Or shall I take it out?
Yeah, you may show it like that, but
yeah. Okay. To put it there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first question from Marco was, can you change the color of the symbols? And yeah, you can also edit the VISIO icons, huh? But maybe you can elaborate. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can in VISIO change the colors, but you can always change the color in painted.net or so, and then you can use them as well. But I'm not sure if you can use that in the stencil.
Yeah, you can also edit the stencil itself. So you can, when you the stencil you loaded, and you can modify the icon, and you can also change the background then of it.
Okay.
Just checked it in the meantime, but
Okay.
it's possible. Yeah. Is it possible to create cage for the symbols so that when you choose symbols from a list, you do not need to try to center on the eye?
I'm not sure what is meant by that.
But with a cage, yeah, I understand the alignment. When you create it for your extension keypad, that you have all your text or symbols aligned with each other, that you do not have to do that. So I think you can at least also snap on grid.
Yeah. That's probably, if it is possible, it's a function in Visio. And to be honest, I've never used that. Perhaps it's a good idea to look it up.
Yeah. If you have, Vladimir, if you have yourself some suggestions here to manage this in Visio, then please let us know, and that we can all use that. Yeah. Do we have these symbols on our web pages? Our customers need these also.
Yeah, I think Yolanda will publish them together with the presentation and perhaps even the video.
Next question was then from Roger. Would it not be better to draw top to down because units have priority in the network because of the rapid spanning tree? Controllers on top, switches in the second layer, and MPSs in the third layer, and then the amplifier and call stations in the next one.
Yes and no. Yes and no. To make a clear overview of the system, the way that we do it now is actually working very well. And you've seen in the larger system that you also can see very well the loop, how it is going from top down. And if you look at the MPS, the bridge priority, is it the same as the switch, the ESP, of the ESAP? You know that, Anton?
The edge switch, it has a higher priority. So
the MPS has a higher priority.
No, the switch has a higher priority than the MPS. So you have first a controller, as here is shown by Roger. So and then you have the switches, and then you have the MPS.
Yeah.
And other equipment. So of course, in some occasions it makes sense to do it like this, and indeed in other, so it really depends on what you want to show in this diagram, because you can also imagine when it's built into a rack that you put it really physically, like have all the MPSs on the lowest level and then the amplifiers on top, and so it really depends on the purpose.
Yeah. You can always change it, of course. We prefer to go from left to right, and that is normally how a diagram, if you create a diagram for any system, it's always left to right, inputs to outputs, and then we go from top down with the devices in our case.
The next comment was from Maria. Looks like Bob Ross. Yeah, indeed. When you have a lot of power and network cables and all together, it will become very messy. And it was also a comment of some of the attendees. Why not using layers so that you can switch on and switch off layers?
That's a good one.
That's a good suggestion. It's not implemented at the moment, but it could of course be very more useful. So I think we really should look into this and to make that happen. So
I've never worked with layers in Visio, so quite. By the way, who's Bob Ross? Harry.
That may Harry explain. So some exploded hairdress, I think. Are front and rear views of the equipment available as a symbol? This is to make rack view drawings and to clarify connections.
We have drawings from the front and the rear, AutoCAD drawings, PDF. I'm not sure I think 4 or 5 different formats. They should be there. I
Yeah,
think even that they are on the website.
Yeah, they are available. Yes.
They are available. Yes, I've seen them.
Yeah. We could also create a Visio stencil for that, but you can also use them directly in AutoCAD, and so these are available. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you place power and network in different layers? So that's what you just discussed.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Do you have a library of blocks, front and rear view, that's in DVG format? Yes, we have that. So that's available. And you can create, but that's something different than the symbols we use in this.
Yeah, that's different. Huh? You need AutoCAD for that.
Yeah. Is there already a block symbol available for the APOS? No, the APOS is not as a block symbol there. So good point. We can add one for that. Visio is good and fairly simple tool. We as SBD team often use it, but 99% of the designers in our region work in AutoCAD. All design documents, including block diagrams, are developed in AutoCAD. We have front and rear views of our units in DVG, but do we have such shapes in DVG format so that drawers can structural diagrams, not in Visio, but in AutoCAD?
Yeah, we have front and rear views, what it says over there. Yeah.
But not these symbols which we have for Visio now.
Yeah. No, we don't have them. I'm not sure if AutoCAD can do the same as with Visio, where you have connection lines, and when you move something, that the line goes along, that you take the line as well. I'm not sure. I've used AutoCAD in the past, but I don't remember that. Perhaps Marco knows that.
Could be.
Okay.
Same in Finland, so AutoCAD format needed. Is it possible to create different layers in order to get more readable drawing? That's the same remark as we already discussed.
Something we have to look in.
Yeah, and then maybe make sense to add additional connection points to PSU shape to 220 points plus batteries.
Yeah. Yes, I know. The actual drawing for a system, this is not to create your drawing for the system, the Visio what we do here. This is to make a setup for the network and power. Yeah, and that is, we know that every MPS has a mains and it has a battery most of the time. So that is just more confusion in the diagram. Yeah, if you add that to these diagrams. If you do an AutoCAD drawing of all the connections of the speakers that come into, and then you will use the mains as well and the batteries as well, and perhaps you individually will draw all the wires on the control inputs and control outputs. But the idea here of these drawings is that you have a good overview of the network and that you have a good overview of the power connections to power amplifiers, call stations, and all other stuff. Yeah, and then to the mains and the batteries are not so important because the MPS always has a mains, you know that. And most of the time it has a battery, you know that. So if it is always like that, why add it? It will only make more confusion in the diagram. Okay.
Yeah. Small off top but it's a hot question. Do we have plans to make BIM models for the PRAESENSA family? I know within SBD the BIM modeling was a topic last year. But I don't know the actual situation at the moment. So I think I will pick this up and we'll check what the current situation is and what the plans are. So I'll come back to this. Then maybe give a link to the stencils and PDFs.
Yeah. Bob Ross.
Oh.
No, the link
okay.
will be there. We will. I'm not sure how Yolanda will do that, but she will take care of it.
Yeah, and the last one from suggestions for caging symbols. Go to the View tab and click on the little arrow at the bottom. Okay, it's explained then how to do that caging. Okay, we can look into that, how we can optimize it.
Okay. Well, if that are all the questions, then it's almost 11, so nice within the hour, even with the problems with the PC.
I would also invite, maybe if I may, because everyone who is going to use this, you can modify icons. So, and if you have an idea for a nice icon, please let us know, or send us one that we could include into this library, because it's if it's benefit for all of us, then share your ideas, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay then, I think this concludes the webinar.
Yep.
Thank you, Peter and Anton. As said, we will share the presentation and also the recording with you via the weekly newsflash that is sent out on Fridays. We have a whole series of webinars planned for Presenza, and next week the following topics are scheduled. On Monday we have how to set up a system from scratch and also Presenza security management. And then on Wednesday, the 13th of May, we have the basic system configuration. So would be good if we have you there as well. So thank you all for attending, and then I wish you further a good day. Goodbye.